But then.
You could have left that off.
I'll listen to it every day of my life.
Yes.
No,
You too.
you know, you guys are embarrassing me. I didn't come into these rooms willingly. And there's a lot of stuff that got me in these rooms. And the three people that are coming into these rooms for your first time, I'm going to read something. Where is it? There it is. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives had become unmanageable. So I'm going to take some time and explain what unmanageability in my life looked like. That's my experience to get here. That's my qualifiers. And then I'm going to go into my strength and my hope. Because this program, beyond the shadow of doubt's given me the best life I've ever dreamed. Well, no, past any dream I ever had of what kind of life would be a good life. And I also want to thank Mr. Stanley sitting back there with a grin on his face. Because last Sunday after the meeting, he comes up to me and we start talking a little bit. And right at the first thing out of his mouth, have you spoke lately? And of course, I had to be honest. And then his next question, well, when can you speak next one? I said, whenever, because my schedule's always open to AA. And I thank Stanley for that. I was born in 1955, June 19. I'm going to run really fast through a bunch of this stuff. I'm a cesarean baby, so right from the very beginning, I felt like I didn't belong. And I dealt with that all my life. You know, I grew up in a home where both my parents were alcoholics. Neither one of my sisters were. And I started my first planned drunk was at the ripe old age of 8 years old. Me and a few of my buddies had sold enough booze that we figured we could get drunk. Or anyhow, that's what I was planning. And that's what I accomplished. And that first drunk set up something in my mind that I chased for a bunch of years. Because for the first time in my mind, it shut off. I drank to a blackout. And all of a sudden, all the noise and all the whirling and all the bullshit going on between my ears went away. Didn't stay away. I was hoping it would, but it didn't. So I spent the next 20 plus years trying to make it happen again. It never did happen again, totally. It would go away for a little bit, but it'd always come back. I'm going to go through a list of surviving really quick here. I'm a survivor of incest. I'm a survivor of alcoholism. It's not alcoholism, it's alcoholism. I, self, and me, because that's where my problem is. I'm a survivor of 2 kinds of cancer. I'm a survivor of a heart disease. I'm a survivor of being willing to go serve my country and do my patriotic duty. I'm a survivor of being a convicted felon and living through years in prison. And I survived long enough through all that shit to finally find my way into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I didn't come in here because of my drinking. Drinking was the last thing on my mind when I come in here. I got introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous while I was in prison, and I got introduced to it as attitude adjustment time. And it applied. A lifer introduced me to it. And it made me think that maybe for the first time in my life, I needed to surrender. I'd never surrendered to any friggin' thing in my life. You know, it's the reason why I was always a high achiever, everything I did. My military took me at the ripe old age of 17 and a half years old and taught me how to go to distant, exotic places and remove people from extreme, existent with extreme prejudice. That's what I did for my military. That's what I did for the United States of America, because that's what I believe in. So consequently, I have some severe issues that I have to deal with on a daily issue every time I see the American flag being abused. I just want to reach out and rip somebody's head off for them. But I can't do that. Alcoholics Anonymous taught me a little bit of tolerance in that area. I've been married quite a few times. None of them ever worked out. And the reason why, I've got 3 boys, 4 boys. One of them's dead because of this disease. In fact, this room is where we had a memorial service for him. The young lady sitting back there helped me do it. And I got to be at her first AA meeting and watch her whole journey. That's the other thing I get to do today, because I've come to AA and stayed around AA on a fairly consistent basis. I get to watch people come into the rooms looking like warmed over death, their eyes all cloudy, looking at the floor, and then slowly but surely, I get to watch the light come on in them eyes and watch them be able to smile every once in a while. Watch them to be able to step up and learn how to live life and to accomplish their wildest dreams and then some. Because of my incest as a kid, I had a really distorted view of females. And I never learned how to accept who they were. It took me lots of years. And in the last 5 years, I was finally able to do that with a lot of help from AA and a lot of help from outside counseling. In 2014, I had cardiac myopathy and almost died. My heart swelled up in my chest like a baseball, and I was suffocating. I filled up with water. Luckily for me, I'd been in the rooms of AA for a little bit, because as I was sitting there knee to knee with my cardiologist after all the friggin' tests we went through, trying to figure out why I was dying, why my heart was giving out. He started going through all the things, and all of a sudden I go, well, I don't use my CPAP and I got sleep apnea. And the room lit up, because that was my issue, because I hated my CPAP machine. And he told me right then, if I wanted to live, I needed to learn how to love my CPAP machine. So that's what I did. And that's what I do. I'm fighting it right now, because not quite a year ago, I got COVID for the first time. And I'm one of the lucky recipients of long-term COVID, because it took 2/3 of my energy and never gave it back. And then it took another 5% off my heart. And I was only running with 50% anyhow. So I had to accept a lot of shit happening over the last year that I never ever dreamed I would have to face. But I've been able to walk through it once again because of Alcoholics Anonymous and the things I've learned in these rooms, the fellowship I have in these rooms, the steps in my higher power. And, I got a demented higher power. He's got he, she, it, however I want to look at it, depending on the time and the mood I'm in, has a very funny, distorted sense of humor, because I was feeling sorry for myself. I've been having a rough year. For the first time in 20 years, I've been uncomfortable for a long period of time, and I have some regrets that I got to deal with this year. And lo and behold, I've been feeling pour me another fucking drink, except it never got to pour me another drink. I was feeling restless, irritable, and discontent most of the time. I was feeling lonely most of the time. I was feeling, because of all the things I've survived, I didn't fit in. I didn't belong here. And yet deep down inside of me, I know I belong here. I earned my seat with gold stars. And I'm proud of that fact that I was finally able to make it into these rooms. But my diminished higher power put Stanley in my friggin' life. I was feeling extremely pissed off that day and sorry for myself. And lo and behold, this young man steps up in my face and talks to me for a couple seconds and goes, "Would you like to speak?" Thanks. Yeah, of course, I couldn't say no. And then I did something they talked about you're not supposed to do, but I did it. That day, I told 4 other people I was speaking today. And I told them 4 people for a very, very specific reason. Because I wanted them here to make sure I stayed honest. Because they're part of my crew. They're part of my family. They're part of my fellowship. And luckily they're all here and quite a few others. Still blows my mind every time I look around the rooms like this and realize how many people I know. And how many people actually seem to like being around me and actually smile when they see me, because I have a real hard time with that. With all the things I've survived, when they told me I had my first cancer, I just about gave up, because I grew up in a time frame where cancer was a death sentence, automatic. And I had a very, very ugly, aggressive cancer. It's called carcinoid cancer. And it's a cancer they don't even catch 90% of the time until it's fatal. And then they do the autopsy and find it. And luckily for me, I had to go in and have a colonoscope, which I'd been running away from for a few years. And they found some polyps. They couldn't take all of them out with the scope. So I had to go in and have a bowel reduction done. They took out 16 inches of my bowel. And in that 16 inches of my bowel, there were 24 little fatty lymph nodes. And 3 of them had carcinoid cancer. They got it all. And they didn't even know they'd got it all when they got it. Didn't know I had carcinoid cancer until the biopsy come back. So I spent the next several years being lit up to glow like nuclear science, and scoped and scanned and da. Because with carcinoid cancer, they have to go past what normal cancer says you're okay. I had to go 5 years past that date. And according to medical science, I'm free and clear of that. But I've always believed and trusted in my higher power, and I knew whatever happens, happens. Now, if he wants me to stay around, he's going to make sure I stay around unless I get totally too stupid, which there was times in my life I used to on a daily basis. I've been shot, I've been stabbed, I've been run over. But there have been 86 from the bar. I always managed to leave bars before I got 86. But, I've been escorted to the city limits by some cops and told flat out, never come back, as they were funneling their weapons. And I took them seriously. Because when I drank, I was a blooming asshole. I guarantee it. Because I hated myself. And I wanted to make sure everybody else in the world hated me too. And I worked long and I worked hard at it. But I never could be perfect at it. Because deep down inside of me, I still cared about human beings. And I couldn't be perfect about it. So I couldn't even get that fucking right. The only thing I ever done right in my life, 100% to date, is I never have, after I come into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, picked up that next drink yet. And I say yet because it's possible. If I don't do what I need to do to make sure that there's something between me and my next drunk, I'm doomed to go back out there and fail. I'm doomed to be sitting right where he is, right where he is, right where he is, if I survive. And if I can get over the shame to come back in these rooms. Because see, people talk about how drinking brought them back in and brought them to the rooms in the first place. My drinking never brought me to the rooms. I had quit drinking before I come into the rooms. I quit drinking before I went to prison. And when I quit drinking, somebody died because I quit drinking. Because I went sideways at the world. Because alcohol was my solution that made me fit for human consumption. And lo and behold, when I wasn't drinking, I wasn't fit for human consumption. And it happened really quick, really ugly. So I went to prison. I went to prison for deliberate homicide. And that was my saving grace. That was as far as I had to dig my hole, because I'd already run my elevator of my life down to the basement and the sub basement and the sub basement and the sub basement. And it wouldn't go any further down. So I tore it apart and built tools so I could keep digging for a while. And that's what I did. I kept digging. And finally, one day I gave up. First time in my life I ever gave up. And I threw in the towel. And like I say, there's a lifer that died in Montana State Prison that introduced me to this crazy ass program called Alcoholics Anonymous. Excuse me. And he introduced me to in a prison cell. Any of you that's been in jail, you kind of got an idea. If you haven't been in jail, it's a very tight enclosed place. You have your potty, you have your sink, you have your bunk. And if you're in a double cell, you have 2 bunks, and that's about it. So when you're in that cell, there ain't much room to get away from somebody if you want to try. And luckily for this guy, he cared enough about me to get bone jarring honest with me and introduce me to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Except he didn't call it that. He called it attitude adjustment. Because he told me flat out that and I'm going to be very blunt here, and I'm sorry if I hurt anybody's feelings, but oh well, get over it. Because feelings won't kill you unless you allow them to. He told me to pull my head out of my ass and start breathing for the first time in my life. And that's what I did. And then, the state of Montana done a number on me too. When I fell from this town. Swore up and down I'd never ever come back to this town. In fact, the state of Montana was going to be a big black hole on any map I ever had, and I was never going to come back to Montana. But the state of Montana had control of me. They had power and control, type of control I couldn't run away from. I could have, but they'd have found me eventually. And lo and behold, the only place they'd allow me to come back to, where they brought me back to, was the detention center on Mullen Road when they first built it. So I got to come back to Missoula, Montana. And I swore up and down as soon as I could, I was going to leave. That's been quite a few years. I haven't left yet. For some odd reason, my higher power seems to think I need to be here. I still have questions about why, but he seems to know better than me, and I stay out of the driver's seat. Like I said, when I first started speaking, this is the start of my 25th year in sobriety. I've gone through 25 Christmases, 25 Thanksgivings, 25 New Years, totally and completely sober. Some of them start raving sober at the first. It was really odd and really weird. And luckily, there was always stuff going on in AA that I could go to. From the Thanksgiving feed, the marathon meetings, the Christmas feed, the marathon meetings, the New Year's marathon meetings, and on. And I got to be part of that setup then, and I still get to be part of that setup now. I spent a lot of time on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day at the meetings. It wasn't as well attended as it used to be, I don't believe, but there were people there, and the room was always open for them. And there was somebody there if they ever showed up. You know, I wished I had this magic wand that I could tap each of you on the head, sprinkle a little bit of stardust or whatever on you, and cure you of this disease. But I can't and I won't. Because you need to walk your own journey. Because that's the only way you're going to find the life you get to live today. I can't live it for you, even though I wished I could. I can't make you sober. It's a common deal knowing they don't talk about it very much in AA, but it's common in AA. You know, when somebody's ready to come in AA, there's no way I can say the wrong thing. If somebody's not ready to come in AA, there's no way I can say the wrong thing, the right thing. Because if you're ready to come in, doesn't matter, you're going to come in. If you're not ready, doesn't matter what people say, how they do, whatever. You ain't going to make it. You ain't going to be able to come in and stay in. I was also taught when I first came in that for me, for drunks like me, AA's sobriety and AA is a three-part system. Number one, I put the plug in the jug. Number two, because I'm the type of alcoholic that would be playing with that jug, hoping the plug would fall out so I could drink again. I have to throw that damn jug away. And then I get to go about changing everything I ever did in my life. And that's how it's turned out. And that's how it's worked for me. You know, I have the son that died from alcoholism. He was homeless and he was okay being homeless. And I had many years of issues with that because I couldn't understand being homeless, but he was okay with that. He's also the son while I was on parole for the state of Montana while I was doing my time. I had to tell him he couldn't come around me anymore because I never knew if he wasn't packing something. And at any time, my parole officer could show up on my doorstep. And I had to do what they said, no matter what. So I had to tell him he couldn't come around anymore. And lo and behold, in the room that the high noon meeting meets in today, there's an elevator in that back corner. That elevator didn't used to be there. And there used to be a doorway in that back corner, and I used to always sit by that doorway. And lo and behold, I was sitting in my chair in that corner, and my baby boy come into his first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And he was able to get 88 days. And then he went back out and drank again. And then he become a fixture with a lot of meetings around town, coming in and arguing and fighting with them all the time because he couldn't get it. I understand why he went back out and drank. He was an alcoholic, just like me. That's what I'd do. He was also a drug addict. And I've been known to use outside substances to help me drink more. So the apple didn't fall far from the tree. But he ended up dying because of this. He ended up doing a little bit of this and a bunch of alcohol and then climbed in a real hot shower. And he died. But that's what he needed to do for him. And he's in a way better place for him. There's days I'm perfectly fine with it. I can talk about it and not cry. There's other days I'd like to bury my boot up his ass because he couldn't get it. And then there's a lot of days somewhere in between. No, I thought this would take a whole hell of a lot longer than it's taking. You know, like I said, I've survived 2 different kinds of cancer. One of them's an ongoing process. Every 6 months, I get to go visit my doctor. And after I do some blood work and everything, and we talk about the results. And so far, them results have stayed right in the same area. It hasn't grown, it hasn't shrunken. It hasn't grown, it hasn't shrunken. It hasn't grown, it hasn't shrunken. So I'm surviving it. And like I said, on my carcinoid, it's done. I don't have to worry about it anymore. Although I do kind of miss going to the hospital and having them shoot me up with this green stuff to make me glow in the dark and then scan my body so they can see everything going on inside of me. Yeah. Not. That's the other thing, there's all kinds of shit that happens in a person's life. And I say shit because I don't know about anybody else. I'm going to talk about something here that's probably going to piss a few people off. And if it pisses you off, I want you to get in a dictionary and look the cotton picking word up. And the word's expectations. Because everybody, the first thing they tell you when you come into AA, you can't have expectations. Well, I'm sorry, people, but I call it bullshit. Because I have an expectation that I expect to happen for me every day, as long as I do some certain things. If I don't pick up that next cotton picking drink, I expect not to get drunk. Period. If I follow the guidelines of AA and work the program and live the program, I expect to have a life beyond my wildest dreams. And for me, that's going to be a good life because the way my life was, it was pretty shitty. And any life I get to live today has got to be good because that's just how it is. I know what I did yesterday will not keep me sober today. I have to do the work today. What I did yesterday kept me sober yesterday. I can learn from that. I can learn how not to take that next drink. I can learn how to reach out to people. I can learn how to take that cotton picking phone list that got passed around for you gentlemen and make sure I put it in my phone so that at least it's there. And then the next thing they told me when I came in, reach out and call somebody, reach out and call 3 people. Well, I came in out of prison, so I had a hellacious time calling people. Today I still have a hellacious time calling people. But I'd drive clean across town to a meeting because I know so-and-so would be there. And I'd suit up, show up. One of the biggest regrets that I've got this year is I've been involved in a relationship for the last 3 years, on and off, on and off, on and off. And I've come to realize that because of who I am, I'm not capable of being in a relationship with the person I was trying to be in a relationship with. And I come to realize that I caused that woman a lot of harm. Though I didn't want to, didn't mean to, but I did. So one of the things I do is I help her out when I can as an acquaintance and an acquaintance only. Other than that, I have nothing to do with her. And hopefully someday I'll be able to get past that regret. The other regret I got to deal with is the one thing I didn't talk about when I first talked. I'm a workaholic, by the way. I like work. It gives me a sense of purpose, always has. Been a workaholic all my life. And this year, because of COVID, I had to accept the fact, and it took 9 months of me almost dying before I could accept the fact that I can't work at the level I used to. I can't sling freight at Target and outwork all the young kids coming in there thinking they're about something. Even though I can still do it, it was killing me. So I had to cut it back a little bit. So I cut it back and I started just putting freight on the shelves. Well, got where I was only able to work 3 hours a day. And luckily for me, I knew somebody that DoorDashed. So I asked some questions about DoorDash. And when I first started looking into DoorDash, I thought, oh, geez, all that is a bunch of entitled people too lazy to do their own work. Well, not so. Not so. I get to make a living doing that today. In fact, that's what I did before I come in here this morning, is go out and make some money. And I make enough at it that it's replaced my work, which is friggin' amazing because my wear and tear is on my pickup. Well, if it wears out, it wears out. You know, I still hope and think that I'm only in the third quarter. I think I got a few more years left, but I don't know. I don't know. There's still a lot of things I want to do in my life. A lot of time I want to spend on this earth doing things with friends, people I know from the rooms, because whether you guys like it or not, guess what? You're my family. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent. Doesn't matter. I'll love you to the end. The other thing that I believe has slipped away, and it's easy to happen because once you get in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and you start working the steps, and you go through the steps and you deal with them grosser handicaps at the first, all of a sudden, for most of the people, if not all the people, your life changes. You start getting better. You start getting to be able to do things and have a life. And all of a sudden, you start drifting away from AA. I know that for a fact because I did it 5 years. I got involved in a relationship at 5 years of sobriety and ended up slowly but surely drifting away from AA. And at the end of that 5 years, a friend of mine that I knew from the rooms, I worked for him. And we used to clean grocery stores, and locked inside of a grocery store one night, I was whining and crying about how bad my life was and da 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 da. And I was ready to go back to prison, but I couldn't go back to prison because guess what? My PO is a member of us. And I knew he wouldn't allow me to go back to prison just on a whim. I'd have to do something. And I didn't want to pick up more time. But I was wanting to go back to prison because then I didn't have to feel. I could just exist. Then I didn't have to work. I could just exist. You know. But I didn't drink over it. He slapped me up alongside the head and he said, you know what you need to do. So I come back into the rooms of AA with a vengeance. And I've been there pretty much since then. You know, I like I said, I wished I could wave a magic wand and give you all the best life you could possibly have. But I have no fucking clue what that is. You and your higher power or whatever have to work that out. Because if I give you what I think you need, it's probably not going to be the right things. Because shoot, I can't even give me what I want and what's the best for me. You know, I need to come into these rooms and talk to people and get bone jarring honest with people and hold my hands out to the newcomer and help people that come in after me and people that come in before me. You know, at 25 years of sobriety, starting 25 years, I ain't got it yet. The ways off. Don't scare yourself, Jim. And starting the journey of my 25th year, I realized how amazing my life has gotten and how afraid I am of losing it. You know, I got health issues. I don't know how much longer I'm going to last. And I don't want to go yet. There's too goddamn many things I want to do. I started fishing last year for the first time since I was a kid, and I love it. That's like doing my DoorDash. I love it. One of the reasons why I love doing my DoorDash is I like driving. Because I was the type of drunk that when I drank, I drove. Guess what? I get to drive today without being drunk. And I get to have a lot of fun because of it. You know, the other thing, I get to no matter what, my son dying, cancer, heart, no matter what, having a relationship fall apart, becoming homeless, whatever, no matter what, I don't pick up that next fucking drink. No matter what. Because I've seen too many times when people pick up that next drink. Look around this room. See all these empty chairs? I know enough people to feel probably about half of them that's been in the rooms at one time and gone back out and drank and died because of it. And just because I got a bunch of time don't mean squat. Because all I got's today. All I get to have is today, this 24. Whoever woke up the earliest today has the most time today so far. Period. Doesn't matter. And hopefully, because I've reached out and I've done service to other people, I've done service to AA, hopefully I'll be able to go to bed tonight sober. I'm pretty sure I'm going. Because I've got my life pretty well set up where no matter what, I don't drink. No matter what, I don't drink. The other thing, you know, I get to do on it, not as often as I'd like to. I come out of the Montana State Prison many years ago, and I get to go up there and take meetings in there. And you talk about a boatload of gratitude whenever that happens. Because, you know, going in there, the crash gates open and the rattling and the crashing and the hairs stand up on the back of my neck, and the old attitude that I always packed while I was in there kind of tries to peek its ugly little head up. And then we meet with the inmates and we do AA. And then we walk out of there. And as I walk out of there and that last crash gate slams behind me and I get to keep walking, most amazing feeling in the world. Most amazing feeling in the world. But I get to give something back. So hopefully you three gentlemen coming in, hopefully I've been able to share something that you can latch a hold of so that you can come to your next meeting and not drink in between now and then. Because that's all we ever have. Is from this meeting to our next, if we don't drink, we got a shot. We get to have choices. Choices are friggin' amazing. When I was drinking, I used to thought I had all this power and control over my life. Shit. I had to do a lot of shit. I had to work a lot. I had to make sure I had enough booze. And that was a full-time job, just doing them two things. Trying to keep a roof over my head, making sure I wasn't going to run out. And the other thing, you know, like I said, I was the type of drunk that always drove. And I'm eternally grateful back when I was running and gunning out there that all the bars and every place used to have matchbooks because I used to collect them. Cause that's the only friggin' way I could remember where in the hell I'd been. It was the only way I could remember where I'd been. And I had to. Because I probably wouldn't want to go back there for at least a couple weeks. So it'd cool off. Cause that's how much I was. The world was about me. And you were supposed to have it all ready. The banquet dinner laid out, everything done up before I got there. And it better be right. Or I was gonna be pissed off. And I was gonna be pissed off at the world. You know, no matter what, you do whatever it takes not to pick up that next drink. Eat a lot of candy at first. You drink a lot of water. You put numbers in your phone and you call a lot of people. You reach your hand out and scream, help, my ass is falling off. Hell, I was taught when I first come into the rooms of AA, you know, if your ass is falling off, sweep it up in a brown paper bag, bring it to the rooms of AA and throw it out on the table. Because somebody's probably got a tube of soup glued to glue it back on. And by George, I have yet, in over 24 years, go through something in my life that I can't come to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and find somebody that doesn't have some sort of experience in what I'm going through. I just got to have the willingness to do it and then ask for help. And for an alcoholic like me, that's extremely hard. Because I grew up believing it was me against the world. You know, I was always tried to figure out, and it didn't come to me until I was this last week, why I always felt so restless, irritable, and discontent. Because as far back as I can remember, I always felt that way. Well, I think I found it. I'm a Caesarean baby. That made me different, unique, special from the very start. And my mind took it and it became restless, irritable, and discontent. I didn't fit in. I didn't belong. I shouldn't be here. And after 24 years, that's still there. I still have to deal with it. Most days, it's pretty easy. A lot of days, it isn't. And so I apologize to anybody and everybody in this room if I've offended you by my bluntness and my honesty and my willingness to get bone jarring honest with you. I did not do it to deliberately hurt any one person. I did it because I love you all from the bottom of my heart. And I want you to realize that no matter what's going on, you can survive it if you don't drink. That's all I got.